All right. Welcome back to Deep Distinctions. Last time we talked about telegraph, telephone. We're going to try to kind of finish up a little bit on that, and then start talking about railroads, packets. Just about. It's only been 20 or 30 years. God, I'm getting old. When I first got into computers, I got into it because I thought it was kind of cool that you could use what's called a modem. A lot of you maybe have seen a modem or heard of one. It's now antique technology that nobody uses, where you would actually transmit your data. You would call other people's computers through the phone line. It would be just your normal voice quality phone line, and you would turn on your modem, and you could communicate back and forth. It wasn't very fast because you can only put so much data through a voice connection. The things we talked about before in the last video that was about telegraph and telephone, we got up to that point. This is my original experience with data communication was through phone lines and modems, and that was also how it began with the internet as well. The precursors of the internet were basically done over telephone lines. And you would have a modem, and you would connect servers up to each other. They would transfer data between each other, and then people would use that information once it got to their local server. Actually indicates that there's still a lot of things that are still work this way. You might be totally impressed by the fact, I don't know if you'll be impressed or not, by the fact of how sometimes antiquated our infrastructure actually is. If you don't see it, you don't know. If it works well, you're just happy. And that's what most end users want, is happy. You don't really care how it's being done as long as it gets done. But there's people like me who spend a lot of time coming up with the infrastructure that you use and trying to conceive of the next level of it and trying to get us to a point where we can do it. Just like it says here, these are not new concepts at all. These are concepts that were born nearly 200 years ago. They're just now faster. And because they're faster and because we're able to do it with different methodologies, it's cheaper. And that's all people really care about. They don't, we haven't changed how we do things. We just do it faster and cheaper. It's why I often tell people that all innovation basically stopped in 1940. We have very few things that are authentically new. It's just that we can do it faster and cheaper, and that's all we've really accomplished probably in the last 70 or 80 years. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm not supposed to get onto that. That's outside of the realm of this class. Let's talk about railroad car management. One of my great heroes, and I don't know if he's a hero, the people I used to study quite a bit. I used to read him. I think he might actually still be alive. Robert Metcalfe. He was one of the people that created what's called Ethernet. Your network, wherever you work or whatever you do here at the school, is based on Ethernet technology. It was a technology that won. I don't know if it's the best. I don't know if it's perfectly suited to all the applications we put it toward, but it's the one that won, and so everybody uses it. He was fascinated by railroad car management. So I got a lot to do with logistics. And so I read up a lot of information about railroads, especially how they're planned and how they're done. If you ever wondered why there's a hobby, model railroad stuff, it's, and you're going, that's a weird hobby. It's interesting because it has a ton to do with information management and and getting bits of information from one place to another. Model railroading as a hobby gives you a lot of insight into this. Being able to couple and uncouple cars, make sure they get on the right track and they go to the right place. I've got a picture up here of a typical rail yard. You look at all these different kind of side railings and all the different box cars that are on them. All these box cars are destined often for different locations, and the whole field of logistics is making sure that a boxcar gets to its ultimate destination as quickly and as efficiently as it can. This is the same exact idea for the information that you have. When we talk about here, we talk about the concept of packets. A packet is a piece of information. It's usually of a pretty small size, but it's all addressed and labeled electronically so that it can go to its destination. Usually it's part of something bigger, so there's actually kind of a mechanism in. I'm trying to put it into terms you understand. I could actually give you the official terms, but your head would probably swim, and that's not interesting to any of us, because all you need to do is kind of understand what's going on so that you can understand, number one, how important it is. Number two, that you need to still spend money on it. It's not something that you need to scrimp on, because if you scrimp on this stuff, data packets don't go where they need to go. And if they don't go where they need to go, you're not getting the information you need. If you like watching movies on the internet, this is vital to making sure that that movie comes in a good order. I know you guys will understand the background of how that happens. I've also worked in that industry as well, and film projection, and how much that's packet based too. Anyway, let's talk about railroad, because a lot of people understand railroad cars and the fact that railroad cars need to go to other places. You can do it for truck drivers. They kind of do that too, although they tend to work with rather discrete packets. They have their load in the back. It's one load. Sometimes they go to several places and drop off little bits and pieces of that load. And that's where it kind of gets to be a logistical thing. Or those big packet container ships that sail all over the ocean. If you don't know about these things, then you don't understand how the world ends up really working. How do you get cheap Chinese goods to the United States? It's through an intense work of logistics to be able to get it over there. You know, you see it on your local shop and you just take it for granted that that stuff gets there. It's a very complicated system and a very complicated business that gets it from some factory in China or in the Southeast Asia, and somehow gets it across the ocean and over here. You know, it's like people who would say things like, I need some more paper. Well, I'll fax you some. You don't really understand how this works, do you? It's like, it's you know, I'm not here to try to make you look stupid, but I am here to try to say that it's probably much more complicated than any of you guys give it credit for. Anyway, packets. We break stuff up into little pieces. It's very discrete, and the most important thing about a packet is it has one destination it needs to go to. It may be one of several million packets. When you send an email, you're sending thousands and thousands and thousands of individual packets to the same basic destination. And it's all about, on the sending side, breaking it down into those packets and those pieces, sending them off. The receiving side receives them and reassembles them to be your email, or to be the web page that you're looking at, or to be the video that you're actually watching over the internet. It's all done exactly the same way through these wonderful packets. There are other technologies you can use, but this is the one that won. It's just simply packets. It's fast enough now that it handles a lot of the things that we want to do. So we've talked a little bit about packets here, and one of the great ways to look at it is through railroad. Let's go. Next video coming up soon.